Hello, hey, what's up guys? This is Kush, and I wanted to make a video on a Qliphort deck I've been working on. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, but let's jump right into it. First off, we run 3 copies of Qliphort Scout. This card has the effect where you can pay 100 life points and you can add any Qliphort card from your deck to your hand. We have cards that can search it out. We want to see this card as soon as we can because it generates advantage every single turn, which is good. We run 1 copy of Qliphort Monolith. This card has the effect where if you tribute summon, you draw 1 card equal to the number of monsters tribute summoned. Usually we only draw 1 at the end phase. It's also searchable. We only really need 1 copy. 3 copies of Maxx. If you don't own 3 copies of Maxx, that's fine. I run it because pretty much this card is essentially you draw 1. You drop this card when they're about to special summon, so you end up drawing, and it either forces your opponent to not special summon anymore, or they just special summon a bunch and they give you a bunch of resources. This card is just super powerful. I love running it in almost every single deck I make. 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Almost every single deck in modern Yu-Gi-Oh somehow manages to add a card to their hand, and this card can stop special summons from the deck or stop them from adding a card. It's just good to run because having that negate is really powerful, especially since this is more of a stun type deck. Stun meaning it stops your opponent from doing things. 2 copies of Qliphort Carrier. The Qliphorts all have these unique effect where even though they're level 6 and level 8, you can normal summon them without tributing, but they become level 4 and their original attack becomes 1800. They also have effects where they're unaffected by monster effects that have a lower level. And the little guys, this one and the next one, have the unique effect where when they're tributed, they do something. This one is when he's tributed, you can return a monster on the field to the hand. He also can be used as a pendulum skill, but usually, and pretty much in every single game, I always summon this guy and either tribute him off or just use him as a beat stick. 2 copies of Qliphort Helix. He pretty much does the same exact thing as the other guy, except this one, when it's tributed, you can destroy spell and trap. The other one is return a monster from the field to the hand. The pendulum effect is it lowers the attack of the opponent's monster, which might come up, but honestly, in the 25 plus duels I played with this deck, it didn't really come up. 1 copy of Qliphort Disk. Now you don't need to run this. It's a super rare, so if you want to play this deck, you don't need to invest in this card. But this card is pretty decent. It has a unique effect where when it's tribute summoned, you can special summon 2 Qliphorts from the deck, but they're destroyed during the end phase. Now that seems really good, right? You can go for OTKs. But you also have to remember, when the Qliphorts are special summoned, their attack all become 1800. You have to take that into account when you're using this guy. Also, I feel like there's another Qliphort, which I'm going to get to, which is way better than this. I'm running it just there for an option. You don't even need to run this at all. You can even run more copies if you really like this card. Personally, I think there's better cards. Next is 1 copy of Qliphort Shell. This one has the effect where when he's tribute summoned, he can attack twice. He also does piercing. He enables OTKs, OTK meaning you kill them in 1 turn. This card's powerful. I mean, he's 28 attack. He can get boosted to 31 really easy in this deck. And he attacks twice and attacks through defense monsters. He's a good card. And then this is one of the most important and my favorite card in this entire deck, and somehow it's just a rare. Qliphort Stealth. I run 1 copy, and this one has the effect where when it's tribute summoned, you can target 1 card on the field and return it to the hand. Now that doesn't seem really good. It pretty much seems like this guy Carrier who can do that for monsters. The cool thing about Stealth is that it has a unique effect where it says your opponent cannot activate card or effects in response to this card's activation. What that means is, let's say you're tributing off 2 Qliphort monsters and you summon Stealth, and you have multiple effects that can be activated. As long as you activate Stealth as the last chain link, that means your opponent cannot activate anything in response. So for example, you'll see in a couple duels, I have either Helix or Carrier that has a Saqlifice equipped to it, and I tribute it off for Stealth. What ends up happening is that I get to activate either one of these 2 effects along with the search from Saqlifice, and then we get Qliphort Stealth, which just returns a card to the hand, and your opponent cannot do anything. It doesn't matter if they have any negate, doesn't matter if they have anything. They cannot do nothing to negate this. It's such a powerful effect. There's only a few cards in Yu-Gi-Oh that have cards that say your opponent cannot activate anything in response. And usually those cards either get banned or limited. This card's good. 1 copy of Harpies Feather Duster. You don't need to run this. I run this because I want back row clear. It means I have outs to certain trap heavy decks like Trap Tricks or Eldlick or something. Now this card's important. Summoner's Art. 3 copies. This card only adds a normal monster from your deck to your hand. And the Qliphorts aren't normal, except for the most important one in the deck, which is Scout. The reason you run 3 copies of a card that pretty much only adds Scout, I mean it can add this guy too, but it pretty much adds Qliphort Scout, is because Scout is so good. You pay 800 and every single turn you get an ad. That's power. That's real power right there. Not only that, it's a scale, so you can easily set up your pendulum scales. It's just insane. Now, the next 2 cards I'm going to be talking about are really good. And they are a little bit higher rarity, but if you're able to get them, highly recommend running them because they're just so good in this deck. The first one being Pot of Duality. This one's you activate top 3 cards of your deck, add one of them to your hand, can't special summon that turn. That's fine. A lot of turns that I played this deck, I ended up just normal summoning and setting cards. Like, that's pretty much what the deck does. It's like really stun heavy. Now this card, Pot of Extravagance, I run 3 copies. This card is just so good. This card is you banish 3 or 6 monsters from your extra deck face down, draw 1 card for each 3 banished. Pretty much, you're going to banish 6 cards every single time and you're going to draw 2, unless they negate it with their Ash Blossom. The reason this card is really good is essentially, in this deck, you don't go into the extra deck that much. So getting rid of the cards in your extra deck doesn't really matter. I'm going to be honest, there's probably only 1 card in the extra deck that's good, Qliphort Genius, which I don't really think I made in the 25 plus games I played. Like, this card's insane. It's really good. If you don't own it, that's completely fine. The next card is Lightning Storm. Same with Harpies Feather Duster. I want to have access to back row removal, destroying spell or traps, and this is mass destruction. So if I can get rid of 2 cards with this 1 card, I feel good. So I like this card. It also can get rid of attack position monsters, which is kind of good, but I don't know. Just having more back row removal I think is really great. Next, I run 3 copies of Saqlifice. You equip this to your Qliphort monster. It gains attack, it can't be destroyed by battle, and it counts as 2 tributes. All of those effects are good. Also, it has the additional effect, and probably the most important effect, where if it leaves the field, you get to add 1 Qliphort monster from your deck to your hand. Usually the only Qliphort monster you want is Scout, if you don't already have it. It deserves to be run at 3, it's absolutely perfect. Now the next card is an interesting one. This is 3 copies of Kaiser Colosseum. Your opponent cannot control more monsters than you control. I run 3 copies because I want to see this card as soon as possible, because it essentially stops your opponent from like summoning more than 1 monster if you activate this first. And that's just really good. Like, it's hard to get rid of because the only way to get rid of it is spell or trap destruction. And if they do have a Harpies Feather Duster or a Lightning Storm, we run Solemn Judgment. This card essentially says, like, you're not doing anything. You pay half your life points and you negate any summon, any spell or trap, anything in the entire game, just negate it. It's so good. But you have to pay half your life points, right? I'm only running 1 copy because I got it out of the bundle deal. If I had 3 copies, I would run 3 copies, but I don't. So instead of running 3 copies of this, I'm running a cheaper version, but it's pretty good too. It's called Solemn Scolding. This one's similar to Solemn Judgment, except it has more restrictions, which means that it's a little bit harder to activate. The activation on this is that it has to be the only set card you control. And that's fine. There's only like 2 cards that you can like really set in your deck, which are Skill Drain. This card's restriction is that it has to be the only set card you control. This could negate any summon, any spell or trap or monster effect, but you have to pay 3,000 life points. So instead of paying half, which might be like 4,000 or whatever, you have to pay a straight 3,000. If you can't pay that 3,000, you can't activate this card. So it's a little bit worse than Solemn Judgment, but I still believe it's good because, I mean, it's a rare. It's easier to have access to. The next card is Skill Drain. I run 3 copies of this trap. It has the effect where you pay 1,000 life points, and a lot of cards in this deck pay life points, but this card's so powerful that it's worth it. You negate all monster effects on the field. The reason it's so good in this deck is because the Qliphorts have the effect where they can be normal summoned, but they lose attack. But you know what Skill Drain does? Kind of forgets about that loss of attack. So let's say you summon Qliphort Carrier, or you summon even one of the big guys, because they can be normal summoned without like tributing, and their attack becomes 1,800. As long as Skill Drain's on the field, their attack goes back to the 2,800, and you don't even need a tribute for it. And essentially you just normal summon a 2,800 monster without tributing. That's why Skill Drain's so good in the deck. It works really good, and it also like stops our opponent from like using their monster effect. But I'm gonna be completely honest, the only reason there's 15 cards in the extra deck is because of this 1 card, Pot of Extravagance. I need cards to banish. If I don't have cards to banish, this card's useless. And the only good card in the extra deck is Qliphort Genius. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't even think I made this once in the 25 plus duels I played. I mean, I wanted to make it once, but I didn't even run in the extra deck at that time. It's summoned using 2 machine monsters, which includes all the Qliphort monsters are all machines, and it's unaffected by spell or trap or monster effects that aren't linked. Has an additional effect where you can target 1 card on either side of the field and negate their effects, and also if 2 monsters are special summoned to the zones it points to, you can add 1 machine that's level 5 or higher from your deck to your hand. All those are good. The arrows point down, it's good in this deck. You can run 3. I don't own 3 because I never make this card, so I'm like, what's the point? But yeah, pretty much that's the deck. A quick overview would be Scout is the most important card in the deck. I run this card to search out Scout. This card can search out Scout. These cards let me draw more cards and hopefully I see Scout. Next, we have really overpowered cards that say to our opponent, no, you cannot play, including Kaiser Colosseum, Skill Drain, and of course the hand traps. And lastly, in order to protect our skill drain and our Kaiser Colosseum, we're running cards that, although they do make us pay a lot of life points, they protect these 2 cards, which are Solemn Judgment, and because I don't own 3 Solemn Judgment, I'm running Solemn Scolding. My favorite Qliphort monster, of course, is Qliphort Stealth, but this card has to be activated last in the chain in order for that effect to actually matter. Let's jump into the duels and let's see how it goes. Alright, here we go. Duel number 1. My opening hand is great. The only problem, no monster. I need to see a monster because Kaiser Colosseum is gonna be useless if I don't see 1 monster. Luckily, Pot of Duality gets me a monster, so I'm in a good position there. Summon the monster, activate Kaiser Colosseum, equip it with the equip spell, and at the start of his phase, I'm gonna flip up Skill Drain. So right here, I'm gonna talk about my board real quick. Kaiser Colosseum makes it so my opponent can only summon 1 monster. That's kind of hard to get around. Saqlifice makes it so my monster can't be destroyed by battle, which is also kind of hard to get around. Skill Drain negates all monster effects on the field, so my monster is going to be really strong. The reason I activated Skill Drain right away, instead of waiting for my opponent to summon a monster and activate an effect in order to counter him, is because I have a set card called Solemn Scolding, and this card can only be activated if it's the only set card on my side of the field. Which means that if he had a Harpies Feather Duster or Lightning Storm, and he activated it, and Skill Drain was still face down, I couldn't even chain Solemn Scolding. So I had to do this preemptively in order to make sure that my back row, my spells and traps are not getting destroyed. He doesn't have one, because if he did, he'd probably use it, and he's playing Tri-Brigade, so he's just going to be doing some certain effects, summoning some monsters, but at the end, he's not really able to do anything. He's just going to set 1 monster and end his turn. I top deck a Harpies Feather Duster, and here I could use it to get rid of his back row, but I'm like, I don't feel like he's really playing any real spell or traps that he would set back there. So I'm going to wait until he sets more and then just try to destroy multiple. I destroy his monster, and he's going to activate some effects, try to get some advantage, but if he can't get rid of my traps or my Kaiser Colosseum, he's not going to be able to do anything. Just going to set another monster, and that's it. He's going to end his turn, I bet. Oh no, he's going to search with 10 keys. He's just getting more monsters, but there's not anything he can really do. Now here was an amazing top deck. I top decked Summoning Art, and I got to my Scout right away. Now, my back row is going to be completely filled. As soon as I activate this Scout, I can't activate Harpies Feather Duster anymore because I used all 5 slots of my spell or trap. So I have to activate Harpies right now, or I just have to hold on to it for later. Scout's going to add me a monster from my deck to my hand. I'm going to normal summon it. It's going to be 24 attack, really big. I'm going to attack with Shell directly. So this is a really good field. He can summon 2 monsters if he wants, but all monster effects are still negated. And here he's just going to choose to set 1. He's not going to special summon or anything. And he ends up scooping. He ends up surrendering. Alright, starting out duel number 2. My opening hand looks kind of decent actually. Pot of Extravagance at the start doesn't get negated, which is really good. And Saqlifice on my Carrier, and I set a Skill Drain. Now the only real thing that I can do is Skill Drain when he activates a monster effect. That's the only thing I can do. Saqlifice will protect my monster from being destroyed by battle just in case it comes down to that. And luckily he doesn't have Harpies Feather Duster to just destroy all my back row. I'm going to use my Maxx on his Polymerization just to get 1 draw, but he negates it. Not a really big deal, but I mean, I got rid of 1 card in his hand that could have been a set spell or trap that I would have been afraid of. He's going to activate his Fusion, which has the effect where you can destroy cards on the field up to the monsters used. I'm going to chain Skill Drain, negate his effect, so his effect's going to become void. It's not going to do anything. And then not only that, my carrier is going to get stronger, so he's going to be boosted up to 27. I top deck Summoning Art, but he's going to negate it. It's kind of sad, but it's not the end of the world. Because I have Saqlifice, and I have a way to get Saqlifice into the graveyard, Saqlifice is going to add me a card from my deck to my hand, and Carrier, since he's tributed, I'm going to be able to bounce that fusion to the extra deck. So I'm going to add a Scout, because Scout's my most important card. Scout's I'm going to pay 800 and add a monster. And I'm going to set up my Pendulum skills, and now I'm able to Pendulum 1. I'm going to attack directly for, what is it, like 54? That's a lot of damage. I draw a card. He didn't do anything. I'm just like, okay, I'll just end the duel. Alright, starting out, duel number 3. Opening up really good. Pot of Extravagance in my opening hand always makes me happy, as long as it doesn't get negated. And I happen to get a Scout. Scout's going to be so useful. Let's say you have a Scout and you have Qliphort monsters in your hand, or you have a Scout and you have a Saqlifice in your hand, and you have no monsters. Either Scout's gonna look for Saqlifice because Saqlifice is so important in this deck, or Scout's gonna look for a monster. If you have Saqlifice and no monster, you're gonna search for a monster, so you can equip Saqlifice, so it becomes useful. If you have a monster but no Saqlifice, you're gonna search for a Saqlifice because you want your monster to be stronger and protected. Also, the monster kind of floats because if Saqlifice leaves the field, you get to add a monster. So it's pretty good. I'm gonna summon a monster, equip it so it can't be destroyed by battle, activate Kaiser, end turn. He can only summon one monster. He's gonna bring out this big guy. And he's gonna like rank it up, so he's gonna bring out his boss monster, which makes it so it's unaffected by other card effects, which is like, it's big, right? He's gonna try to attack over my monster, but Saqlifice is gonna protect my monster, so I'm not really afraid. Can't summon anything else, and I think he just scooped because he was like, well, I'm kind of stuck. If I switch my monster defense, he's not going to be able to do anything. Alright, this is the 4th duel. I think I really like this duel. Opening hand's decent. Pot of Duality, search out my deck. I'm playing against, what is this, Dragon Maid? I like Dragon Maid. Dragon Maid's a cute deck, it's powerful. What they try to do is they try to go into their fusion monster, which is an Omni Negate. It can negate a spell, trap, or monster effect. And he's going to summon all these monsters, and he's going to go into his Omni Negate, which is really good. And he's going to pass his turn. During my standby phase, he gets to activate the effect where you can special summon a monster from the graveyard. I'm going to activate Pot of Duality, look at the top cards of my deck. My options were a Pot of Greed card, which is useless because it can only be activated at the start of my main phase 1, so it's a dead card. Harpies Feather Duster, useless. He has no back row, no spell or traps, so... And Kaiser Colosseum, which in this case is actually the best card I can have, minus Skill Drain. I'm going to activate Kaiser Colosseum right away, because if he doesn't negate this, I mean, that pretty much means I won. And he doesn't negate it, so I summon a monster, and I activate Qliphort Scout. So normally, Qliphort Scout would get negated, but the cool thing with Kaiser Colosseum is that he can't summon anything else. He has 3, and I control 1, so he can't summon anything else. So his effect can negate any card effect, but it also comes with the effect where he has to special summon at the end of it. And since he can't special summon, he can't negate. So pretty much all of his monsters, which have effects where you can special summon something, are void. They're useless effects that do nothing. So Scout's gonna add me a Saqlifice so I can equip it so it gets stronger. And I'm gonna set my Solemn Scolding just for protection, and I'm gonna activate Disk. I'm not Pendulum summoning here because I already activated Pot of Duality, which makes it so you can't special summon the turn you activate it. And I'm activating Disk here because it gains the attack for Helix. So Helix is a little stronger, so I deal a little bit more. It's going to be his turn, he's going to attack me, can't be destroyed by battle. And now I get to go ham. One of my favorite cards in the entire deck, Stealth. So this is a classic example of what Stealth can do. Stealth is going to tribute my Helix, and even though Stealth is level 8, and would normally require 2 tributes, the spell card that was equipped to Helix, Saqlifice, makes it so Helix counts as 2 tributes. So Stealth is going to be normal summoned easy. Not only that, Stealth has the effect where you can bounce a card, and Saqlifice can add. So, in any other situation, if he had an Ash Blossom and activated Saqlifice, he could just Ash Blossom my Saqlifice. But since Stealth is being activated as the last in the chain, he can't respond in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to be able to return that fusion from the field to the extra deck, and I'm going to be able to add. And he can't do anything, even if he had anything he could like want to do. I'm going to Pendulum a bunch. He's going to activate his monster effect because now I control 4 and he can do that. I'm just going to negate it with Solemn Scolding. And now I'm pretty sure I can just attack him directly for game. Alright, this opening hand does not look good, I'm not gonna lie. Pretty much, I'm hoping that this goes through and it doesn't get negated, and it doesn't. And I happen to top deck a summoning art, which essentially equals a scout. So now my scout's live, and I get to search every single turn as long as it stays on the field. I'm gonna search for a monster just to have, like, you know, just in case something happens, I can do something next turn. And I set a skill drain, and my monster is protected by battle, and skill drain can negate monster effects. He summons a monster, he doesn't really do much. He's playing Qliphort 2, which makes me kind of excited. Activate my second copy of Pot of Extravagance, which essentially just lets me draw 2 cards. I'm going to draw 2. The cards I drew, they're okay. The first thing I'm going to do is tribute for Stealth. So Stealth is going to have, I'm going to have 3 cards I can activate. Carrier, the spell card in my graveyard, Saqlifice, and Stealth. And the most important thing you can do in this situation is activate Stealth last. You want to activate Stealth last, because if Stealth isn't activated last, your opponent can chain and they can negate it. They can negate like any card in the chain. So what I'm going to do is either activate Carrier or Saqlifice, whatever order I want, and Stealth last, and my opponent can't do anything. Even if he could respond to it in any shape, way, or form, he can't do anything now, because Stealth says like, no, you can't. So I'm going to return his monster and his back row to the hand. And I'm able to set up my scales, and I'm able to go for game. This was just such a cool game. I was playing against the same exact deck. Also, in this scenario, skill drain helped me so much. The reason my monsters are losing attack is because he has Helix, which has it, your monsters lose 300 attack, which would have been a big deal if I didn't have skill drain, because skill drain has the effect where negate the effects, so now their attack's like super high. I'm able to just kill him 1 turn. 2 turns. In this duel, pretty much all I did was Kaiser Colosseum. That's all I did, so you can only summon 1 monster unless you can get rid of my spell or my monster, which shouldn't be too hard. He's gonna do like this combo. I think he's playing Marincess, which is a really good deck actually. I'm not too familiar with them, but I do know that they're really, really powerful. As long as they get the new support that's like, should be coming out pretty soon on Master Duel. He's gonna destroy my monsters, so now he can just like summon as many monsters as he wants. And he goes into his like Marincess, which lets him equip like a bunch of cards. And his monster is pretty big, but I'm not too worried because I still have Kaiser. And if he can't kill me this turn, I'm just gonna be able to summon another monster and set up Kaiser again. If you know what Marincess does, you probably know what he's doing. I don't really know what he's doing, I'm gonna be honest. He's just summoning a bunch of monsters and then he ends up with this monster with a bunch of equips, but I mean, I looked at all his cards, I didn't see any negates, so I'm like, I'm not too worried. I'm gonna use Harpies to destroy all of his spell and traps, which makes his monster a little bit weaker. Searched out the Scout, Scout's so good. Pay the 800, search out the spell because the spell's so good. Set up my scales, and I'm gonna Pendulum. I only Pendulum 1 here instead of 2 is because I want to tribute summon. And also Carrier has the effect when he's tributed, I can return a monster from the field to the hand. So I'm gonna get rid of his Link monster, send it to the extra deck, and I'm gonna special summon 2 monsters from my deck, which is pretty good. Although they're only going to be 1,800 attack, it's still pretty good because I'm at least doing an extra 3,600 damage. I get a search from the equip spell that gets sent to the graveyard also. Since my monsters are going to be destroyed at the end phase because of Disk effect, I can make a Link monster and I can like sit on that, but I don't really want to give my opponent any chances to like come back, so I'm going to let my monsters die so that he can only summon 1 monster because of Kaiser. And what is he going to be able to do? His deck's a combo deck. He needs to summon a lot. He just ends up scooping. I think I saved this duel because look at my opening hand. 3 summoning art. Like, really? 1's going to get me a scout. Maybe 2 will get me a scout. I don't know. Like, it's not the best hand. I always search out Saqlifice if I don't have Saqlifice. I'm going to search out Monolith, and I think I Pendulum. Oh no, I don't. Because he activates Maxx. Normally I would Pendulum. But I don't need a Pendulum. Like, this deck doesn't rely on Pendulum summoning. So usually what I see is people activate Maxx as soon as I set the scales on any Pendulum deck I play. And I'm just like, my deck doesn't need a Pendulum, so I'm just going to end up normal summoning and equipping Saqlificing and passing. Because that's usually what I always do. It's not a big deal. He just lost to Maxx. He's playing Danger, or at least he's using a Danger engine. He's going to start searching his deck. So he like discards, adds, specials, and he just gets monsters on the field and draws, which is pretty good. Although I think he gets a little bit unlucky. He's playing Plunder Control, which is actually kind of good deck. This card has the effect where you can discard one and banish a spell or trap, which might hurt my deck a lot. And then he can like summon another one which can like destroy like a monster or whatever, banish a monster. But the thing is he either messed up or he didn't expect me to come back, because he has no cards in his hand, and this card's only good if you're able to discard. So I'm like, well, he can't really stop me if I search out another Scout. So the 3 summoning art actually came in handy. I'm gonna use Scout, search out Stealth, because I love Stealth. And what I'm gonna end up doing is doing Stealth. Always activate Stealth last in a chain. So I'm gonna activate Carrier to return a monster. Saqlifice is gonna add me whatever. And Stealth is going to return a monster also. But Stealth has to be last, because if it wasn't last, he might be able to chain if he had like anything he could do. He ends up scooping because, I don't know, maybe like he realized that my deck's kind of strong, and I still haven't even Pendulum summoned, so. And this is going to be the final duel of the video. He's going to activate a copy of 1 for 1. This card lets him special summon a monster from his deck. I'm going to use Ash Blossom to negate it, because I have 2 Ash Blossoms. I'm just going to use it right away. Also, this is a good card to negate, because you can only run 1 copy. It's going to chain Call by the Grave, which negates my Ash Blossom, so I can't do anything about his card. The only card I can use to protect me now, but it's the first turn, so you can't kill me by battle. But the only card I can like use to protect me from like getting absolutely destroyed by him making a bunch of negates is Nibiru, which is like, I'm holding out on it. His engine uses what is it called? Licorius. And they just like keep special summoning and adding and doing all this like stuff. So right here, I messed up and I learned, and I'm gonna explain it. He ends up summoning up to 5 monsters, so I can activate Nibiru, which has the effect where I can destroy every monster, I can tribute every monster on the field, and then special summon a token on his side of the field and special summon this on mine. Oh, what I messed up on was this card has the effect where you can special summon a monster from the graveyard. I should have waited until after he special summoned from the graveyard, then activated Nibiru. But I don't think I read his card, and I was just like, oh, well, I'm gonna use it now. And what's gonna end up happening is that he's gonna get his token, but he's still gonna be able to special summon from the graveyard because his effect resolves. So he's gonna bring back the link, and then he's just gonna reattach the link, detach, add, and he's just gonna keep like doing his combos. So I did mess up there. I should have waited. Had I waited, I would have been in a super good position. He probably would have just ended his turn, but no worries. What this deck does is that it brings out 2 copies of the same exact XYZ or rank, and it goes into this guy, which then goes into Utopic Dragon, which can negate like monster effects. His effect's actually legit. I'll read it out. It can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. That's really good. Also has the effect where if I activate any monster effect, you can detach one, negate it, and gain control of it. So I'm like, I gotta get rid of that, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use Scout. Scout's gonna grab me a Carrier. I'm gonna summon Carrier and use Colossus. I can't really do anything about it this turn. Oh, but my out to Utopic Dragon feature is coming next turn. The cool thing that I did here is I set up double Scout, because I'm like, I don't need my Pendulum skills this duel. Scout can be used multiple times as long as you have multiple copies. So I can add once from this and add once again from that. My Carrier can't be destroyed by battle. And now I have 2 Scouts. He's gonna try to negate 1, but does that really matter? I have 2 Scouts. And just in case something happens, I got another summoning art, because why not? So I'm gonna finally be able to add my favorite card in the deck, Stealth. And if you remember, they can't activate anything in response to this. Even if their card says, oh, I'm gonna negate your card. Oh, you gonna activate something? I'm gonna negate it. Nah, dude. Stealth has the effect, can't activate anything. So I'm just gonna tribute summon him, and I'm gonna return to XYZ to his extra deck. And also, Stealth can target any card on the field. I can even, the cool thing with Stealth, I can target Scout, return it to the hand, replay Scout, re-add another card from my deck. But I'm like, I don't need to do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna re-add Nibiru to my hand. So I'm gonna tell him like, hey, you're gonna summon a lot again, even though I had Kaiser and you managed to get rid of all my back row with like Feather Duster or something. I'm just gonna Nibiru you again. So like, I'm like in a really good situation. He knows I have a Nibiru, so he has to try to play around Nibiru. I also have Kaisers, so if he can't get rid of Kaisers, he can't do anything. He ends up scooping. So that duel was really cool. I feel like it really showed off what this deck can do. But yeah, that's it. I really hope you liked this video. Sorry if it was a little too long. I wanted to go into depth about the combos and all that stuff, you know. But anyways, hope you have a great day or night. Thanks for watching my videos. Thanks for watching this one. If you liked it, feel free to subscribe, like. I not only post Yu-Gi-Oh content, I'm going to try to post other content. I just want to try to put out more things on YouTube that might help people. Because I know when I was younger and I used YouTube a lot, I wish there was things like this out there. So I kind of want to put this stuff out for other people who might want it. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll see you later. Peace.